Sunday Surefire Podcast. I'm your host, the Commish. Joining me here today is the co-host, Aaron Downtown Brown.
Hey, hey.
Aaron, I'm back, baby. Been gone for a few weeks. So happy to be back here on the pod. We got week 6 behind us, man. And before we touch on anything regarding week 7, tell me, did you survive the carnage that was week 6?
Yeah, I think I did. I think I did. I mean, just personally with fantasy leagues, I think I'm pretty happy right now. We'll definitely see if that takes a turn or not, but we're approaching, pretty much almost midway through the fantasy season. And then with DFS, I posted on our socials. We've been kind of talking the talk lately. So I posted all of our average scores. We mention our little friendly competition each week. I'm coming out the gate strong at you there, Commish and Mr. Ethan. I know you're going to be listening to the show as well, but yeah, I'm averaging 169 DFS points a week, which is pretty high. Got a little bit of room to catch up there, guys, but you're not doing too shabby either. Commish, you're at 143 and Ethan's at 141, but we all have put together some pretty high weeks, 178, 168, and 195 as top scores. So I think we're having a pretty exciting season so far. What do you think, Commish?
Yeah, I think we're definitely doing well as a unit for sure. You gave the scores out there, and the scoreboard is what it is. As far as our little competition goes, you're definitely kicking our butts here to start the season out, which is good on you. Credit to you for that. But it's a long road, my friends. I think there's plenty of time for me and Ethan to make up some ground. But more importantly, the numbers we're putting up there are good. Some of those composite lineups that you've thrown together and put in our Discord have been hitting as well. So these are lineups that are winning money in actual tournaments that you, me, and Ethan have been reaping the benefits of, which is awesome. And we put it out there for the listeners as well. So make sure you're checking out our Discord. It's available on all of our social media platforms. It's on X as well. It's pinned right up at the top there, so you'll see it quickly. Only got to scroll down a little bit to get there, but it's a really good community too. We have people from all over the country that are checking in and just really there to talk anything really football related, fantasy, daily, Dynasty even. We have all types of channels on there, so make sure you're checking us out. And of course, it's all free of charge to hop in and be a member of that community. But that's it for the intro here. So let's just go right into the I told you so section. And I was not on the pod last week, but if you followed on that Discord that I mentioned, I did give you my picks on there. And what my best call of the week was definitely Drake London. Put up 24.5 points, cost just $4,800 to get into your lineup. So that was a good hit on my part there. Ended up coming in second place to you this week. But that's really the main call that I had from week 6, Aaron. Why don't you tell us what Ethan hit on and tell us what you hit on a week ago?
You like that? You like that?
Yeah, sure. So Ethan actually had the RB1 of the week and the wide receiver 2. So he had Raheem Mostert that he called out last week as his bullish buy. Very nice bullish buy, only 6,400 for the week. And then he had Adam Thielen too as an honorable mention. So those two hit. If you're kind of combining picks, definitely would have worked out for you. I went Cup as my bullish buy, gave you an easy 30. Pittman gave you 23, and I also had Drake London at 24 points from last week too. So definitely another nice week, and certainly was a week you could have mixed and matched our players and came out on top.
Definitely. We've had plenty of good weeks here to start. So let's make sure as we transition now into week 7, folks, that you're paying attention. You got your number 2 pencil out. You're jotting these notes down here so you can put some cash in your pocket this week in the daily game. And we'll go right to the bullish buy section. Our expensive players that are the well-known, high-profile studs. They're going to go off this week. The guys you're paying the big money for, Aaron. Who are you putting in your lineup here right out of the rip to start us out here?
All right. So I guess I'm gonna cover my bullish buy and Ethan's because what do you know, him and I are actually agreeing this week in this section. We both have 7,000 Kenneth Walker as our bullish buy. So looking at that Arizona Seattle game, really like like the makings of this for Kenneth Walker. This series quietly averaging about 18 fantasy points per game. I mean, he's getting his touches, about 16 rushes per game, just coming off of 19 against the Bengals. So he's definitely getting the ball, getting the volume. But this week he lines up against the 25th worst run defense and then 30th against running back specifically in fantasy as well. So I like Kenneth Walker. I think he's going to have a huge week. I'm hoping we go 2 for 2 calling RB1s on the show. So that's who Ethan and I both have this week is Kenneth Walker.
Absolutely love the call. He's actually in my lineup as well, so we can make that a clean sweep right out of the gate. I have
Nice.
another expensive player that I was going to talk about, but I'm in on Walker too. Absolutely dominated the touches last week. 22 for Walker versus just 3 for the talented rookie Zach Charbonnet. They really are making him earn his keep to start his NFL career. So while Walker's the bulldozing back there and getting the lion's share of the carries, I want to keep plugging him into my lineup. So all 3 of us will be doing that this week. But for my bullish buy, Aaron, I know this one's going to bring a smile to your face. I'm going to your beloved Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, and I'm going Travis Kelce. All the Swift mania. Maybe it's getting to me. All the Taylor stuff out there, but I'm in on it, baby. I think he's really going to shake off the LA Chargers like they're nothing this week. I guess for $8,000, expensive price point to get him in your lineup. Usually when we talk about division games, with this being an AFC West matchup, we talk about them kind of not being strangers to one another. So usually in those spots, with the familiarity can sometimes lead to a suppression of a player's fantasy impact on the game. But that's not at all been the case lately when Kelce suits up against the Bolts. In his last 5 games against LA, Kelce is averaging 6 receptions for 110 yards and just over 1 touchdown per game. Added to the mix here that Kelce continues to be a target magnet for Mahomes, averaging 9.2 targets per game. And if you just compare that to the other Chiefs pass catchers, mainly just the wide receivers, none of those pass catchers are seeing more than 4.8 targets per game this year. So the long story short is here, you really cannot trust any Chiefs wide receiver from week to week because Kelce just is still that guy in Arrowhead this year. And there's never a bad time to fire up Travis Kelce. And I'm happy to do it here in a game that had opened up with an over-under of just over 50 points this week. So I know you're not going to fight it, Mr. Kansas City Chief himself, Aaron, but give me your quick thoughts on Kelce this week against the Chargers.
No, I'm definitely not going to fight Travis Kelce. I mean, I feel like even if I wasn't a Chiefs fan, I don't know what there is to kind of fight about or argue about other than his high price. So I think you alluded to it that, the Chiefs Chargers matchups are usually, pretty intense. I mean, regardless of what the Chargers record is, I think it'll be pretty tight, and that's usually when Mahomes is looking for Kelce. So anytime that game script is you need points or you need to, keep putting up volume, I'm all for a Travis Kelce game. So can't argue with you there. I just hope he doesn't get body slammed by what's his face at safety again this year.
Was it Derwin that got him last year? Derwin
Yeah,
James?
yeah, that was right. Derwin James. Yeah, he got him at the goal line there. That body slam move.
Yes. Yeah. As someone who had Travis Kelce in fantasy and still do have him in a dynasty league, I was kind of like cringing when that happened. I'm like, oh my God, I hope he gets up from that. And fortunately he did. So that's good. Maybe throwing some shade at the people who want to say he's not tough or that he's just a glorified wide receiver out there. He got right back up and kept scoring fantasy points for managers. But that's it for the high profile guys. Let's move on to the defenses here. And I want to know, I'm curious, what defenses did you and Aaron roll with here in our 2 deep section?
All right. So I'll go ahead and start with mine. I probably the most expensive one because it is the most expensive this week. I usually don't do it, but this week I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to. I went with 4,200 Buffalo Bills against your beloved New England Patriots. I guess I'll just keep this short and sweet. I mean, Buffalo's defense is averaging 12 points per game in fantasy, which is very nice. Anytime you're scoring over 10, it's a good play. And then they're going up against the 31st ranked offense. So I'm spending a lot on my defense. Want that spot to score this week for me. So Buffalo for me, and then Ethan is going with the Raiders against the Bears. So I think he's playing with in hopes that Justin Fields is out, which I think he's doubtful right now. So pretty good play. I think we were talking about that off air. The Raiders are they're pretty good defense, at least against the average offenses in the league. They usually get some either turnovers or sacks that you can count on too. So we're going Raiders for Ethan 3,800, and then me Buffalo Bills 4,200.
All right. I am definitely going to be on the lower end of the cost structure here, which actually might not be a bad thing. And I'm actually, believe it or not, Aaron, I'm going with the same game that you targeted, but I'm going with the Patriots defense against the Bills
Ooh.
for 2,100. And you're probably rolling your eyes and thinking, like, come on, commish, don't be a homer. That's one of our cardinal rules in this program that you can't just hype up your team because it's your team. And look, I get it. But I'm not that guy. I'm well aware that my beloved Patriots, that we stink this year. And we're sinking like a rock to the bottom of the ocean. Like, I get it. So like so much so that I told you guys a couple of weeks ago that the Saints defense was going to come into Gillette Stadium and roll us. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened that week. And I could sit here and tell you that Josh Allen has thrown 6 interceptions this year. He's fumbled twice this year as well. And the Patriots could exploit that and blah, 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 blah. But there's one reason and one reason only that I'm taking the Patriots here in this particular spot. And of course, that reason is because they're so damn cheap. $2,100. They're the lowest defense on the slate this week. And the reason I did that is the only reason is because my lineup elsewhere is very expensive this week. I've mentioned I have Kenneth Walker in my lineup for 7,000. I got Travis Kelce in my lineup for 8,000. That's 2 guys right there taking up a massive number off, like right off the top. So for me to get all these high profile pieces in there, I had to cheap out somewhere. And I went with the New England defense for just that reason. So if you're willing to go expensive elsewhere, you might be able to toss them out there playing the Pats at home. But obviously, I think your call outs with Buffalo and, of course, the Raiders are just going to be a lot safer this week. So if you're actually looking for a ton of points from a team, I would roll with one of your guys' picks. If you're looking to save money somewhere and you want to go with the Pats defense, who might get you like 6 or 7 points for a really low price point, you could also go that route as well.
Yeah, I think you defended your own pick there. I mean, I'm not going to argue with your logic. I mean, if you got, such high profile guys elsewhere in your lineup, you got to save money. I think we've said that before. So sometimes sometimes it's the defenses that are least likely to do something, right? So maybe it's a pick six or something, but I think it's obviously a little bit of a reach here. But like we both said, if you're just looking for save money, that's the play there. But obviously don't like that over one of the best offenses in the game. But Josh Allen has been kind of making questionable throws here of later. He has his famous arm punt that he does on 3rd down as well. So maybe some of those may happen in the game, but other than that, I think you hammered those points home.
Yeah, for sure. And look, I've no illusions that the Patriots are going to actually find a way to win this football game, because we don't win football games anymore here in New England, and we find ways to lose them. And I think Buffalo's going to put it up on us here. And I'm actually going to come back to this game a little bit later as well. So we'll put a pin in that for now. And we're going to go to our pick 6 category here. These are the lower, I guess you should say somewhat lesser known guys that are not quite as expensive. The guys that you have to wedge into your lineup to make ends meet. And I'm going to start us out here, Aaron, with a trip to Stack City. I feel like last year we were going to Stack City like every single week with a quarterback and a pass catcher of some kind. Am I wrong about that? I mean, have we gone there less there this year, would you say, so far?
I think you're right. I think we even named some episodes just Stack City and stacking, and yeah, we were creative as any ways we could say stack last year. So I think you're pretty accurate there.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like every week, at least one of the 3 of us was doing that. So I'm taking a trip back there. Haven't been there in a while, so I'm making the trip back to Stack City. I'm going to Jordan Love here, who's playing at Denver for $5,800. And look, listen, this is not exactly any type of hard hitting analysis here, but the Denver Broncos, they suck. Like Sean Payton, he sucks too. Like I tried to tell people this on this podcast a year ago that he was overrated. You know this. I'm on record saying this, and I'm not at all shocked to see what's happening out in Denver this year. But just to kind of pick on their defense a little bit here, they've allowed the 31st most points to opposing quarterbacks this season in fantasy. They're 30th in the league in pass yards allowed. They're dead last in the league in passing TDs allowed. They're dead last in the league in points per game allowed. And oh, what a shock here. Like, they're finding ways to lose game every week as well, because that's what Sean Payton does when he doesn't have Drew Brees throwing the football. So if you look at Jordan Love himself here, let's go back to the Packers side of it. He got off to a hot start, scoring 19 or more fantasy points in each of his first 4 weeks this year. He had a bumpy showing out in Vegas last time out, but with Green Bay coming off a bye and him being a young player, I think he can shake that off. With them being well rested here and finally having all their weapons back on the field for the first time, I think they're just in a spot where they're absolutely going to crush Denver, and they're going to get back to 500 themselves and kind of look to get back into things in the NFC North, or at least in the wild card picture as the second half of the season comes upon us here. So As you can imagine, the second half of that is Christian Watson. I'll dive into him in a moment here, but any thoughts on Jordan Love?
I guess I was kind of hoping you would say Watson when I heard the Stack City over there in Green Bay, but I may split your Stack City in half. I might be in Divide City this week, where I love your Watson call. I'm sure you're going to back that up here in a second, but I have Watson in my lineup, but I'm not a huge Love fan this year. I think he's kind of shown his cards. He's not. It's all cracked up to be, but he can sometimes get those sneaky points. Um, but yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Love and fantasy this year, but he's kind of sporadic overall in my opinion, based on the matchup. But so not so in love with Jordan Love, but I do like your Watson play.
Well, what's not to love from a guy who scored 19 or more fantasy points in 4 of his first 5 games this year?
That's a good point. That's definitely a good point. What was his low one that's sticking out for me? What was his non 19 point game?
He had a tough week. I believe this is his last time out against the Raiders. I want to say it was right around 8 points.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it could have been that. He could have burned me. That could have been the week I played him, possibly. But no, I mean he does get those sneaky points, and it just might be. I'm kind of might be speaking more from a football mind, like winning football games. But if he, that definitely educated me there. I didn't know he was that sneaky as far as the 19 plus per game. So not a bad call there.
Yeah, I hear you on that. I mean, look, I don't know if Jordan Love's going to be the long-term answer in Green Bay. I certainly don't think he's going to be, the next guy in line with like Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers just to move on Jordan Love. But I just, I think he's good enough for fantasy where if you have him in redraft or if you haven't been, playing him in daily, I think you can get him fired up. He's actually QB8 on the year thus far, in the points per game category. With his bye week in there, you can't really do it from the overall standpoint. But yeah, QB8 points per game. He's hanging in there. It's kind of one of those situations where it's a little ugly from time to time, and you don't want to watch the games, but you'll look at the box score at the end and be like, oh, okay, that ended up all right. And that's also helped Christian Watson too. Some of the game scripts that they played in, and I'll just get right into him here. He's one of those weapons that I mentioned that was been missing to start the season in Green Bay was Christian Watson. He missed the first 3 games of the year with a hamstring issue. Has produced a little bit in his first 2 games back, 10 and 11 point outings. Nothing that pops off the page really, but the game tape, if you actually do turn it on and watch it, tells you a different story. Love's been looking for Watson on a lot of these deep balls, and the couple that they've hit on have been great, but they've also left some plays on the field as well. There's been a couple of deep balls, especially in that last game against the Raiders, where Watson was like just right off his fingertips, overthrew him a little bit. Maybe Watson could have done a little bit better as well. Just chalking up the 2 young players who haven't been on the field a ton together this season. I think that's kind of really what's happening there with them being a little bit off base here. But I think as the season progresses, those two are going to get more and more comfortable with each other. I just can kind of feel there's a big breakout connection coming between those two. And I think there's no better time to look for that than when they've had 2 weeks to prepare and they're playing against literally the worst defense in the NFL. So I'm firing up Christian Watson for $5,600, stacking him up with Jordan Love for $5,800, and that's my trip to Stack City. I know you like Christian Watson, so if you have anything else to add on him, fire away. And if not, just get me right into your pick six, guys.
All right. No, I mean, you could have made me a fantasy believer over Love. And yeah, I guess we'll see it. I did say I do have Watson in my lineup. So obviously if I like Watson, there's got to be a little part of me that likes Love as well in that matchup. So hope that works out for you. But moving on to my pick six here, and I think you're gonna like this one, Kamish, because this is one we talk about going full circle. So kind of backing up the pod a little bit. We talked about this player as a stash play last year. Brought him up as a sleeper in the off season in his division, and then we're finally bringing him up as a DFS play. So this is I guess our Sunday Surefire full circle here. I'm going 5,100 Jerome Ford, running back, Cleveland Browns against the Indianapolis Colts. So really like what I've seen over from Ford since he took over from the Chubb injury this year. Kind of a lot from what we talked about in both of these off seasons. We knew he could be a guy that could step in. He's definitely taken advantage of his opportunities. He's going up against the 21st ranked run defense with Indianapolis, who actually just had Travis Etienne score 2 rushing touchdowns on him just last week as well. So on top of that, the Browns do have a top tier offensive line, top 5 in the league. So I do like that formula for Cleveland. I think they'll definitely give him his touches again, regardless of if Watson is or is not back this week. So I like Jerome Ford, regardless of game script. I just think that he's definitely going to get his opportunities in the passing game, rushing game, goal line, all that. So I'm going Jerome Ford for 5,100 this week.
Okay. I mean, Jerome Ford is a guy that I called out on this podcast, like, a year and a half ago at this point now. As a rookie, no one knew who he was. And so he's always someone that I'm rooting for, if for no other reason other than that. And I have him in a couple of dynasty leagues, of course. But are you at all concerned about Kareem Hunt? I mean, we saw him get, I think, 15 touches this week between a couple of receptions and 12 rush attempts as well. I mean, are you concerned at all that now that he's kind of getting ramped up to speed, it's going to start to spill over and take away from Ford a little bit?
Is slightly. I mean, I guess it's just the same feedback over like if you were concerned having Chubb and Hunt together. I mean, Ford still had his 17 rushes, even coming off of a questionable injury status. I think he had an ankle injury, I want to say. So even coming off of was he going to play or not, he still had 17 rushes. So not so much. I think Ford's still the guy, but I did I did have to figure out if Hunt was a factor, but I'm looking past it.
Okay, you're chalking it up to old man Kareem Hunt just having a good day out of nowhere, and it's not going to repeat itself. Okay, fair enough. We'll see what happens with that backfield distribution going forward. Definitely something to monitor for hit But why don't you hit me with Ethan's? What is he buying low on this week?
All right, so moving on to Ethan's first pick 6 player. He's going with the guy I called out a few weeks ago, 5,300, going back to that Arizona Seattle game again. He's going Hollywood Brown, wide receiver. Just another, it's funny. I have him in my lineup as well. We're kind of joking about that when he texted in his picks this week to us. So we're kind of in agreement there. It's funny. I have my own notes there. Seattle's 32 ranked against wide receivers fantasy. But the fun thing I like about Hollywood is every week is a good game script for him. I feel like, right, with Arizona being, I think now they're kind of truly being that Arizona team we were kind of expecting for the year, kind of making it interesting at times, but still coming up with losses. I think that game script is just always great for wide receivers. Back to the Brandon Cooks days in Houston, and you can name off probably quite a few players like that as well. So Hollywood is 10 plus targets a game. I think anytime you got 10 or 11 targets, definitely good call there. And he, as we know, he can bust some open for long plays as well. So him and I actually both have Hollywood Brown this week at 5,300.
All right, so I'm taking a trip to Stack City. You guys are going to Hollywood.
Nice. Yes, exactly.
Awesome. Okay, yeah. I like it. Yeah, averaging 9, what is it? Yeah, just over, we'll round it up and say 9 targets a game for Hollywood. So good stuff. Yeah. I mean, chasing targets, a team that's behind a lot. I mean, that's kind of someone that the industry was in on this offseason as well. And he's had some good weeks, and for a relatively cheap price point, I am in on that. No argument for me on that. And let me go to my last pick 6 player here, and that's going to be Latavius Murray at New England, $4,400. And I know that it feels like this guy's been around the league forever, but at 33 years old, he's still out there doing work, man. Like, he's averaging just over 4 yards per carry. So far, this Buffalo backfield has been a lot of James Cook, and then kind of a split between Murray and Damian Harris behind him. Harris actually went down on Sunday Night Football, and what was a scary looking neck injury, which no one liked to see. Looks like he's going to be okay. He's back home. He's got movement everywhere and all that, which is the most important thing, of course. But with that, he's unlikely to play this week, I'd imagine. I don't know that. I'm just more speculating more than anything based on how bad the injury looked. He's going to take at least 1 week off. And in Harris's absence last week, Murray saw 12 touches to Cook's 14. So even if it does skew a little bit more heavily in favor of Cook this week, which I'd imagine it probably will, Murray's still going to get plenty of run here. We've seen him poach a couple of touchdowns at the goal line earlier this season. And with him being the only bigger bodied back healthy, this week for Buffalo. I can see him doing so again this week, and I think Buffalo's going to win the game, like I mentioned. So maybe if even if he's out there grinding it out in the fourth quarter, I think he's going to be the guy out there where they want to keep Cook healthier for the bigger games down the road. As we know, the Bills have bigger fish to fry than my lowly Patriots going forward. So I can see this being kind of a game where Murray is kind of a guy that people look around the league like, oh yeah, I remember that guy. I had him in my fantasy team in like 2015, back in the day. But I think for at least for one day here for $4,400, you can squeeze just enough juice out of Latavius Murray to be happy with it at the end of the week.
You know what? I actually love that call. I know you've been a little combative with me tonight there, Kamish, but I can't say I'm gonna do that the same with your Murray pick. I actually love that call. I think that in the past I've called out, I like kind of bundling up. We talk about stacks. I bringing this strategy back, stacking your defense with a running back. So that the game script does line up a lot. So if that does happen and Bills are kind of on cruise control, I think Murray does get an increase in rushes. He actually could end up with more rushes than Cook in that game if it is but if it is that big blowout that could potentially happen in that game, I do love that call with Murray this week. So that's actually a good deep find. Salute to you for that.
I'm hoping so. I'm hoping that's one that I can unearth on the Told You So's next week. And people are like, no way, that guy said Latavius Murray, and they go back and check the tape, and sure enough, it'll be there. So we'll keep our fingers crossed on that for sure. But anything else here for you or Ethan? Anyone else at all that you want to call out here in the pick six category before we moved on?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and do some back-to-backs here. My last pick six of my own. This is going to be an interesting one. A little bit of a risky player here. Is still only 5,000. But the funny thing is he hasn't played since week 1. So I'm going with the guy we've called out in the offseason. I'm going to go with Deontay Johnson, that Pittsburgh against the LA Rams game. So I'm this one I would say track very closely. Deontay Johnson is coming off of IR. He did have that hamstring injury. But it is important to remember he got that in week 1. The IR, the minimum of the 4 weeks. So he actually had the 4 weeks plus he had the week 6 bye. So he's having over 5 weeks of recovery time from this hamstring, which is more than the norm, I guess, for hamstring recoveries. I do think that Deontay could be a very sneaky play. When he's healthy, he's in the 6 to sometimes 7,000 range. So if he's full go, if you're looking at it, practice reports and whatnot, I love that play. So I will say there's obviously risk involved. Definitely pay attention to reports, but I have Deontay in my lineup, hoping he plays. If not, I'll probably switch him out for one of our good pick six players that we're calling out on the show this week. So I'm gonna go on to Ethan's last pick, and then Kamish, you can comment on either or both or however you want to do it. He's going with his beloved Rashee Rice with my Kansas City Chiefs. He's Rice is 4,700 this week, going back to that Chiefs Chargers game. My initial instincts on this is I don't know. He is a rookie. He has only playing about 30% of snaps. Chargers games are always high intensity. Can he, will he show up to the moment? Possibly. He has been somewhat reliable, I guess, but he's still not getting enough volume for me. So even though he's a Chiefs player, we always say don't be a homer here. I'm not this week. I don't think it's a great play. I like your Kelsey play a lot more. You could actually go fishing if you want to fish for Kansas City receivers. I at that point I'd rather just say Kadarius Toney again for like 3,700. So we're going right. Ethan's going Rice at 4,700, and I'm going Deontay Johnson at 5,000. Commission. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I have some thoughts on both guys. I guess I'll just start with Rice while he's fresh in my head here. I understand what Ethan's thinking. I mean, he is leading the Kansas City wide receiver room in targets. Patrick Mahomes is his quarterback. So typically when you get something like that kind of put together, your thought is like, okay, well, this is a guy I want. It's going to be good for fantasy. Elite quarterback leading the receivers in targets. Unfortunately, no receiver in this room is averaging more than 4.8 targets per game. So yes, Rice is averaging 4.8 targets per game, which is great, I guess. Right, it's great that he's number one on this team in targets, but he's just not getting targeted all that much. And you mentioned the snap percentages. On only one occasion has he played more than 50% of the snaps, and on that game he played 51% of the snaps. Like so, he's not out there like a ton, and he's not seeing a ton of volume, which I guess you could argue the two are tied together. I could see Rice maybe kind of getting some separation from guys like Tony and Justin Watson and Sky Moore a little bit more as the season progresses. But I'm just not in a spot now where I want to start putting him in my daily lineups and just betting on him falling in the end zone. Even though the price point is not bad, I'll say that $4,700 is definitely not going to break the bank for you. But you really are fishing, as you said, in a deeper pond than I would like, I guess, just based on his usage thus far. But who knows? I've been wrong before. Maybe I'll be wrong again this week. And on Deontay Johnson, I mean, he's a guy I hyped up a ton in the offseason. I planted my flag on him firmly as a guy that I really thought was going to have a great year. And so naturally I did that and was really boisterous about it. So he goes out and gets hurt in week one, obviously. So I do remain high on him, but like you said, you got to monitor the practice reports closely this week to make sure he's going to officially come off of IR and be ready to go for this week. And as some of my teams could really use him this week, so I hope he is back on the field and contributing. So I won't give you too much grief on that call, Aaron. I'll let you slide on that one with Deontay. But that's gonna wrap up our pick six category here. Let's talk about the big game coming up on Thursday. And in that one here, we're gonna get a good one. I think is gonna be a good one between the Jacksonville Jaguars and the New Orleans Saints. The Saints they opened up at a slight favorite here, -1 with the over-under at 39.5. This line and this over-under, I would definitely be paying attention to the reports coming out here. There's a number of players on both sides of this game that are questionable, including both starting quarterbacks and Derek Carr and Trevor Lawrence, which makes it really hard to pin down like what this line and what the over-under is going to come in at here. But we have a show to do tonight as we record this on Tuesday evening. So we'll do our best to give you our thoughts on the game here. I'll just toss it to you, Aaron. Like, what do you think based on what we know right now? They're optimistic Lawrence is going to play as well as Carr is going to play. So both QBs in theory could be out there, but I guess what do you see happening in this game, and what are your thoughts maybe to the gamblers out there who are looking to place some money on this game?
Yeah, a couple thoughts here on both teams. Kind of in reverse here. I think, when we were talking both teams in the offseason, for me, I thought the Saints were going to score a whole heck of a lot more. I thought Carr was going to play a lot better this season. Kind of went off to a slow start, even with, all of his weapons at his disposal. And then on the flip side with Jacksonville, we've we always were talking about that ascending offense and, them just putting up 30 plus points as well. And for them, it's kind of their defense that's stacked up, right? Stepped up this year, right? Where I know last year in DFS, we played a lot of fantasy players playing against Jacksonville defense, but it's kind of tables have turned a little bit. Their defense has gotten a lot better. I know Josh Allen's getting to the quarterback, applying pressure there. So I actually see a little bit of a defensive battle in this game. I think New Orleans still has a pretty solid defense, especially playing at home. Primetime game in New Orleans is usually pretty, they usually have that stadium rocking. So I do see more defensive plays in this game. There's a lot of, shiny players to pick from, but I actually like the under. I don't know if the 39.5 is gonna hit for the under. I usually give myself a few points. I might mark that up to like 42 or something. But I like the defensive play, so I'm going under in this one. I haven't decided on the winner just yet. I may wait to see who's healthy at quarterback before I make that decision.
Yeah, I hear you on that. It's tough to make those bets here. And typically, I'm not an early action kind of guy here. I usually wait until relatively close to kickoff, or at least the morning of, before I actually put my money down here on these wagers. But I actually did something a little bit uncharacteristic for myself. I actually grabbed the Saints at -1. And the reason I did that is because I was really optimistic that Carr was going to play. And I'm still a little pessimistic on Lawrence, despite the reports today that they think that there's a shot he might get out there. He got hurt last week and he's dealing with a knee sprain. I can just kind of see the team exercising caution with this one here. If they do sit him this week, they give him 10 more days to rest up for week 8. Whereas Derek Carr on the other side of things here, he had a shoulder injury entering last week, and they still let him go out there and throw the ball 50 times. So I think Carr is going to be out there. I'm not convinced Lawrence is going to be out there, even though there's a chance he might be, of course. So I just think with that AFC South or being still wide open, really. I mean, even if the Jacksonville Jaguars lose this game, it's not a conference game. It's AFC, NFC, so it's kind of doesn't really affect them a ton if they drop this one. So I think they could be a little bit cautious with their franchise quarterback and Trevor Lawrence this week, which is all good things here for the Saints here, which is why I pounced on them there at -1. If that's the case there as well, and they do go with CJ Beathard, the backup quarterback, I can see the Saints defense at home really just being good enough to carry the Saints to a victory in this game. This unit has allowed 20 or more points just once this year. Or I should say more than 20 points. I think they gave 20 to Houston last week. So they haven't given up more than 20 once this season. And the Jags, like I said, they have a backup QB in there in all likelihood. So that doesn't really scare me a ton. So I actually went a little bit unorthodox here and I grabbed the Saints -1. What do you think about me rolling the dice and doing that, Mr. Parlay all day, Aaron Downtown Brown?
I don't think it's ever a bad deal to get any spread under 3 from the home team. I think we talk about it a lot. Just kind of the general rule of thumb is they usually give the home team 3 points anyway, right? So I think they are kind of hoping for thinking it's going to be a close game. I do too. Like I said, I think it's usually those defensive games or maybe maybe kicking field goals. Definitely some field goals in the game as well. But I'm not going to knock you for it. New Orleans defense is gonna definitely apply some pressure, so they'll get some sacks and whatnot. So can't they hate the play? I'm more on the over under though. I would say
Playing the over and the under. That's always a fun game too. I like to do that, and giving myself a little bit of cushion sometimes in the process as well, like the way that you mentioned. But let's get into our captain lineups here. So even with all this uncertainty around the game, Aaron, who are you saying? You know what? If I'm picking this right now, I got to toss this guy as my captain this week. Who are you going with?
I love it. I loved how you set this up with all this uncertainty. I'm actually gonna go with one of the more certain guys, certain and consistent guys this week, and you might be able to guess it. I'm actually going to go with Michael Thomas as my captain this week. Michael Thomas, he's only 10,500 in your captain spot, which is not breaking the bank. Definitely get a lot of high profile guys in your lineup from there. But talking about consistency here, I think we talked about, Rashee Rice leading the wide receiver targets with 4.8 on the Chiefs, but MT is averaging 5 receptions per game, not targets, 5 receptions per game, which is anything 6 to 7 is kind of more the elite status. So I'd be happy with 5, especially at the captain lineup. So he gets 6 to 7 receptions, even only like 40 or 50 yards. That's an easy 18 points as your captain. So if he does anything better than that, he's going to be plus 20. Of course, if he falls in the end zone, you're even, you're rolling even more, right? So, I'm just looking at MT consistent targets. That kind of just racks up really fast as your captain in the game. And then, I guess just my one of my first points I said is you can fit a lot of guys in there, only being just over 10,000 as a captain. So, I've called out this dude all year, but he's not shining, too crazy out there putting up a lot of fantasy points, but when you talk about consistency, he's certainly that this year for them.
Yeah, I was out on Michael Thomas this offseason for sure. And I have not let's just say it's not one of my better calls this year. I wouldn't say he's blowing up like he's, in his prime from 4 or 5 years ago or anything like that, but he's definitely shown that he's still viable. You can still get him on the fantasy front, and for right around 10 grand, I think you can do a lot worse than that in your lineup. So I'll let you slide on that one as well. I won't blast you on that one like I did earlier, but I'll just go right to mine here for this one. And I'm with all the uncertainty with this game, we don't know who's going to play, who's not going to play. I'm going to go with the guy who has been very consistent this year for the New Orleans Saints, but I'm going to go with Alvin Kamara, who's seen at least 24 touches in each of the 3 games that he's played this year, and that includes 25 targets for 23 receptions. And if Carr's shoulder really isn't right, and we think it's something that's going to limit his ability to throw the ball down the field. It just means they're going to throw more short passes, and who better to be the beneficiary of those short passes than Alvin Kamara? The guy came off a suspension and got 13 receptions right out of the gate. So I think we could be in store for more of the same this week from Kamara. And with this being a full PPR competition, I'm all about that kind of value in my captain slot, even if I have to pay a little bit up to get it for the $15,600 mark it'll cost to get him into that slot here. Aaron, talk to me about AK-41.
Yeah, I like Kamara here in this game. I think he'll actually score more in the captain spot than Michael Thomas. But then when I threw him in there, I just didn't like my overall lineup as much. So I have Kamara in my lineup, just not as captain, obviously. But yeah, I can't hate it. He's also been very consistent since he's been back. He gets your catches as well, so can't hate it. And kind of interesting to see how your full lineup ends up being one of the more pricey guys, but can't hate Kamara. I would say definitely get him in your lineup one way or another.
Yeah, I'm sure Ethan will get him in his lineup as well. But he went with I have his pick here. He went with a Saint as well, and it's not Chris Olave. It's not one of the tight ends. It's actually Derek Carr. He's looking at that injured shoulder for Carr, and just kind of scoffing at it and saying, "Forget it. I'm going to spend the $13,200 it takes to get him into my lineup this week, and I'm going to live with the results." So, if he does look a little bit healthier, maybe they open it up a little bit down the field, and he's chucking the ball to Olave and Michael Thomas more so than the little dump downs to Alvin Kamara. So I guess give me your quick reaction to Ethan rolling with Derek Carr for this game.
What's funny? I kind of was high on Carr. I alluded to it when we were just kind of talking about the overall game. Carr's really not doing what I thought he'd do this year. I mean, maybe he'll have a midseason, turnaround and start really putting up some numbers, but I'm not really too keen on his performance so far this year. Don't love it. Like I said, I think it's more of a defensive game. If anything, it sounds really funny, but I'd even be happy if there's no passing touchdowns in the game, even though I got Michael Thomas. It's like if they're just throwing to him and racking up receptions, I can be fine with that and sneak in a kicker, like I've been sneaking around saying. I think that's just one way I'm gonna make my lineup. So I think you guys may be going for scores. I'm hoping it's more of a defensive game. I could be wrong, but yeah, I don't know if I want to pay that much at quarterback when I think it's going to be more of a defensive game, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, the over under when it opened up wasn't even 40 points. So like they're telling us there that they don't think there's going to be a ton of points scored, and meaning a lot of touchdowns scored. So that could very well make for a kicker battle. And I have McManus in my lineup as well. He's the Jacksonville Jaguars kicker. So I hope he's booting some field goals from distance there. If what's probably going to be the back quarterback for the Jaguars is just getting barely over midfield and in a dome, maybe those guys they're willing to line it up a little bit further if the offenses are having trouble moving the ball. So I'm with you on the kicker point. We'll see how Carr goes out. This game's going to be interesting as well. It could be very well be an ugly Thursday night football game. But it's an NFL game when there's action out there. I know the three of us are watching, and a lot of other people are as well. So never a bad time to put some skin in the game. So I think those are some good call-outs, and I think we're going to help some people win some money this Thursday night, so you can get that bankroll up going into the weekend. But we'll kind of close the door here like we usually do with some hot takes.
This is why I'm hot. This is why I'm hot. This is why I'm hot.
I guess I'll go first here, Aaron, in case you need a minute to compose yours and put it all together. And I'm going back to my my beloved Stack City trip that I took earlier. I'm going to parlay Jordan Love and Christian Watson together here for them to go nuts in the Mile High City. I got a combo here. I got Jordan Love to throw for 300 plus yards and 3 touchdowns. And I have Watson going for 1,000 plus receiving yards and a score of his own. And if this happens, it would actually be Love's first career 300-yard performance of his entire career. So I think if you combine all that together, it might not be our hottest take in the world, but I think it definitely meets the threshold of a quality hot take on this program. So I guess what are your thoughts on that? And give me your hot take as well. Hit me with it.
Yeah, no, I'll just comment on the strategy. I think anytime you throw a stack and it works out for you in DFS and you even parlay it with a parlay and betting, you can make some money, right? So either right or when you're right, or you're wrong, basically. So I hope that works out for you. I have I guess I have more of a betting hot take as well. I think going back to that Seattle game, um, throw in, the I guess a popular bet always is an anytime touchdown score. I say take the 2 touchdowns or more with Kenneth Walker. I think he may get 2 touchdowns. Throw that in there. If that's open already, I would say if you want to start your weekend off early, take New Orleans under 42, and then throw in a Kenneth Walker 2 touchdown bet, and you may be sitting pretty for the weekend. But if that's not available right away, I'll come up with something in the Discord on Sunday to couple that Kenneth Walker play as well.
That's a really solid foundation of a good parlay that could just jacks the odds up there immediately. Pretty much any 2 touchdown day from a running back, a receiver, tight end, what have you, it's going to get those odds up there going quick. And so if you can just kind of have that be the base of the parlay with even a couple safer, or at least relatively safer things tossed in there, that could really just be the start to a big payday and really making your Sunday that much more enjoyable. So I'm with you on that. I'll probably we'll talk about throwing a couple of dollars on that together as well. So we'll see where the week takes us on that front. But I think we've got the table pretty well set here for week 7, folks. Again, make sure you're checking us out on all of our social media platforms, joining us on Discord as well. Check us out on Twitter or X, whatever the hell it's called now, Sunday_Surefire. And until next time, folks, peace.